he promised he would do, in ways he said he would get rid of people, in ways he said he would take healthcare away and food from children. He is doing all of that and more. So saying that you voted for him just because of what he said and not because you were lied to is a little bit wild. But hey, I am glad you're awake now, and I am glad you're on the bright side, and I truly hope nothing but the best for you and your children.
The American flag stands for compassion, kindness, liberty, justice for all. We're all human, and today I'm asking for one human act of compassion to please let my dad come home.
Quick question. Did you think that the American flag stood for compassion and kindness when you voted for who you voted for? Because let me show you something.
And the science and experience we've developed here will live on through you. On behalf of the board, the leadership team, and myself personally, thank you for your passion, your ideas, and your perseverance. Perhaps more importantly, while we assembled phenomenal individuals together as a team, we fostered an even more phenomenal culture together. While war in its current state will not continue, our culture will ensure so many of these relationships will continue going forward, both professionally and personally. Your work mattered, it still matters.
That was my CEO, shutting down our entire company, where that man has dedicated his life to science and treating cancer patients such as your father. And we had to stop. All of us got laid off because of your vote. So let me ask you another question. Would you still regret your vote if this didn't happen to you personally? Because I went back a couple of videos on your page to find out where was the outrage when this happened to a child, an American child that was deported mid-cancer treatment. And what I saw on your page was you being hot. I didn't see you being outraged. I didn't see you being upset. I didn't see you speaking up. So your cry is not really regret or remorse. Your cry is entitlement. You're crying because you're told no. You're crying because they denied you. Because if they had accepted your father to stay here, you wouldn't regret your vote. You would think that your president was still your hero. Because the outrage, the remorse, and the regret should have started months ago when this was happening to other people. When this was happening to thousands of other people that also have families, that also have children, that also have wives. You didn't care back then. Now you care.
Seeing people regret voting for Trump is so annoying to me. I thought it was going to be kind of satisfying because it's like, I told you so. We all told you. But it's infuriating because we did tell you. We've been telling you. You had him for 4 years. You didn't realize that it was probably not a good decision. He told you exactly what he was going to do. Professionals said, hey, this isn't going to be good. This is going to negatively impact you. And y'all didn't listen. You still voted for him. We had so many celebrities, so many influencers out here saying, hey, vote for Trump, da-da-da-da. And now they're all backpedaling. And it's only because it's affecting you now? You didn't care that all these other minorities were being affected, but now that it's affecting you, now you care. Well, lucky for you, we're all just screwed now. So, it's great.
Are you a farmer? If you're not a farmer, you don't have to pay attention. Since I'm in the financial world, every day I read the New York Times business section. Headline today, China bought $12.6 billion in U.S. soybeans last year. Now it's $0. Almost $13 billion versus zero. Farmers ain't going to be happy. Why did this happen? Yeah. Because of Trump's tariffs. That's exactly why it happened. There is no other reason. Okay, you might say, what about other countries of the world? Are they buying American soybeans?
You know, initially, white people thought that poverty was only a black problem. But they didn't know all of this was being done deliberately. They were being played. And I want to take you back to history, back in 1676 during the Bacchus Rebellion. You understand that's where the creation of whiteness started. That's where they lied to white people. And they told them that, you know, you are better than a black person. And they gave them privileges. They gave them everything, right? But on the other side, this is what they did to black people. First, they put black people into situations that were not human environmental. I mean, they were not like humane, you understand? The conditions were so bad. And this is what white people failed. They failed to see the unity that black people wanted with them. You see, poor white people and poor black people came together. They came together to fight the oppressive leadership that was happening during that time, right? Hence, they formed the Bacchus Rebellion. So, 1676, I mean, when they did this unity, the elites sat down and thought to themselves that, now, if these poor white people and poor black people come together, that will be a revolution. And when a revolution happens, it means this is the end of us. It means that we are not going to benefit anything. And what did they do? They said, nah, let's play these people a game. Let's lie to them. Let's tell white people that you are greater than black people. And then let's give them an opportunity that we are not going to give black people. So this selective opportunity that they did towards white people is what really messed them. Now, as time goes by, the structure crumbles. And the United States is being seen for what it is. Because greed is making people not even see their own race. This is something that was initially not seen before. We were not seeing white people coming out crying. We were not seeing white people talking about all this. But yet people say that people were talking about white privilege. There is nothing like privilege. I understand. Right now there ain't. But we are talking about before. So even when we are looking at right now the contemporary United States, you understand that white people are played. That's why we are seeing them all complaining these things. People never believe that there will come a time where they'll see white people cry like openly about all these things. But this is just the truth, right? So let's watch the video, and then I'll be back talking about this background rebellion, historical part of this video that I think it's important that we need to discuss. So let's watch the video. I'll be back.
If you are white and you don't know what redlining is, this is a very important video for you and you need to buckle up. Redlining is the reason why you have mostly black neighborhoods and mostly white neighborhoods. Why in black neighborhoods you see that they're disproportionately affected by poverty. So this started with the Homeowners Loan Corporation in the 1930s. So picture a map where some areas are green and some are red. So the green areas is where they said, okay, we can provide loans to them and government-backed mortgage assistance. Now, the red was considered hazardous. They were cut off from mortgage insurance and loans. Guess what neighborhoods were the ones in the red? Predominantly black and people of color. So what this did was made it almost impossible to buy, sell, and refinance their homes. So essentially, they were trapped where they were. So in these green, predominantly white areas, they were able to grow in wealth. So the focus wasn't on the redlined areas. They weren't taking care of these areas. They weren't upkeeping them. So this led to the devaluation of the redlined areas. You literally have a system that allows white people to prosper, to accumulate wealth, while literally forcing black people to remain where they are, ensuring that it is extremely hard for them to succeed. It was only in the 1930s, okay? The effects exist today. You have generational wealth and generational poverty, generational home ownership and generational lack of home ownership. To this day, you still have racist realtors, you still have racist home buyers that don't want to buy homes from black people. Black people experience discrimination when they are applying for a job. They get paid less in general for the same job as their white counterpart. If you're a white person that's like, oh, black people only make up 13% of the population, but there's such a disproportionate amount of crimes that they commit. Listen, when people are disproportionately affected by poverty, they're going to disproportionately experience crime. It's not a black, white, or brown thing. Where you have poverty, you have higher rates of crime. It's literally as simple as that. The color of somebody's skin doesn't make them inherently bad. What do? We get rid of the generational wealth gap. We support black businesses. We talk about race. We call out racism. We speak truth. If you have a racist employer, you don't work for them. The second they open their mouth and say who they are, the second you notice that they're denying black people or people of color jobs, that all of the employees around you are your race, you say, why am I going to enable this? You see that they're being treated unfairly, that they're underpaid. You speak up, and if something doesn't change, you leave. Use your white privilege. When white people speak up, when they use their voice that they're so scared to use, that's when we see change. And until then, you are just an enabler. Silence is compliance. Silence is violence.
By 1932, half of Black Americans were unemployed. That's double the rate of white workers. In cities like Chicago and Atlanta, white workers demanded that Black employees be fired first to make room for other white job seekers. Even relief programs and soup kitchens turned Black families away. Or if they did take them, they gave them the bare minimum, while white families got full assistance. But here's the part they don't really talk about: how the effects of this still impact us today. The Great Depression created the modern wealth gap, right? After the Depression, the U.S. government poured money into home loans to help Americans recover, but Black people were locked out of that. Redlining ensured that Black neighborhoods were labeled as high risk, so banks refused to give Black families home loans. Today, only 44% of Black Americans own homes, compared to 74% of white Americans, because we were never given the same starting point. Generational wealth was stolen from the start. While white families got government aid, loans, and economic recovery programs, Black families got left behind. That's why even today, the median wealth of a white family is nearly 10 times that of a Black family. The financial setbacks that Black families faced weren't just about the Depression. They were about who was allowed to recover and who wasn't. No, Black people weren't unaffected by the Great Depression. We were targeted, excluded, and systematically denied the opportunities that helped white families rebuild. And the effects of that are still shaping who owns, who thrives, and who struggles today. They don't teach this for a reason. But history didn't just happen. It created the system that we're living in right now. And if we don't keep talking about it, they'll just keep pretending that it didn't exist.
Just finished a morning run, sweating bullets, but I have to say this while I'm thinking about it. Almost every week, I see someone ask the question, why are white men so angry? And while I cannot begin to expound on the many reasons why that might be, what I can say is this: I view all social problems through a lens of societal systems, because as a sociologist, that's what I'm trained to do. And here is the design flaw in systems of privilege. When you build systems of hierarchy and privilege, when you build systems of hierarchy and privilege, the privilege is actually what weakens you. The privilege makes you weak, because when you socialize an entire group of people to believe that I exist, therefore I deserve. I exist, therefore I am entitled. I exist, therefore the path of prosperity should be laid out very cleanly ahead of me, and I don't have to work hard, and I don't have to struggle, and I don't have to dig deep. I just have to receive. Meanwhile, you are socializing all other groups to survive with less resources, with less privilege. And so as a byproduct of their survival, they are becoming adaptable, resilient, creative, resourceful. They are developing the muscle for survival that they subsequently turn into systems for success and prosperity. Meanwhile, the privileged group is not developing these systems. And when they start to see the disenfranchised group becoming stronger, gaining opportunities, building systems of success, rather than say, hey, maybe we ought to be doing that too, no. Privilege doubles down. Privilege digs deep into the well of anger and grievance and says, you are the reason why I can't be successful. You are taking opportunities away from me and my children and generations. And so now, rather than develop the muscle of resilience, what I'm going to do now is start taking privileges away from you. And now I'm going to start taking your resources, and now I'm going to start burning your house down in hopes that you will get back to where I think you ought to be, which is underneath me. Not realizing that the more you do that, the more privileges you take away, the more systems of success you try to dismantle.
Don't do that, Sherry. Don't do that. I don't understand when some of you white people try to compare your situation of being poor, terribly poor, to Black people being enslaved. And you did try to compare it because you mentioned it. I don't even know why you'd bring it up. It had nothing to do with the conversation. Okay? Being poor, even the poorest, is not the same as being taken from your country, your country, the whole continent, going to a land where you don't speak the language, getting your limbs cut off, or killed, or murdered, or hunted down for a taste of freedom, being separated from your family. At least you got to be with some family, and poor, being separated when you tried to create family here, having to work for free, not being able to take care of your own kids because you are feeding someone else's children, not even being able to breastfeed, being raped at any chance and when somebody wanted your body because you were property. You were property. You were at least seen as a person who could go out and earn a living, even if it was a very bad job and a very poor living. We didn't even have the option. We were seen the same as goats and oxen and horses. So I don't understand your need. I don't know if you're trying to bond with us, but it doesn't. It really is literally the worst thing. It's actually quite insulting when you do things like that. When you do try to compare your situation to being an enslaved.
Please explain to me, who raised these people? What the is wrong with them?
We are huge Trump supporters. If you didn't get the email on Monday, you're safe. And I'm like skipping down the halls, right? Like, I get to stay. Wednesday late afternoon, I received a notice that I have an appointment, a Teams appointment with my supervisor on Friday at 9 o'clock. So I knew that I wasn't safe anymore.
You were skipping down the hall. You were so excited when you thought you were safe. You knew others were suffering and gonna suffer, but you knew you were safe. You were cool with it.
Cutting costs and waste and fraud and. We love that big picture. I love that big picture. My friends, we were excited about that because it is true.
I could just picture you and your friends, glasses of cheap wine, just laughing over others and how others are going to get affected.
The common theme is, we voted for this. You knew this was coming, but we didn't. Like, nobody that I've talked to understood the devastation that having this administration in office would do to our lives, but other people that we love and care about too within the Mid-Ohio Valley.
There it is. It's only when you're affected that you actually feel bad about something. You don't have any regrets for everyone else. It's that you got affected. You're despicable. You're disgusting. How does it feel?
It's hard. It's wrecking.
Good.
What's interesting is that poor MAGA has the audacity to say, "Make America great again," as if during the same time black people were experiencing poverty and slavery and the brutality of the top 1%, they weren't poor as fuck too. White people have always been poor in America. Only 1% of the white population during the time of slavery owned slaves. That same 1% of the white people that own most of the industries now. You know what the other 99% are doing? Did then, and they're still on the same plantation. They just thought they were free. They were still working. They were still farming. They were still out in the dirt and in the fields, just like the slaves. Even till this day, somehow they think they're not on the plantation with black folks and Mexicans and gays and everybody else. They're still going to their same jobs that are still ran by those same 1% elites. You have to have the same amount of education as they did 250 years ago for you to think that as a white person who is not a part of the 1%, that somehow you are not a part of the slave class just like everybody else.
You can't take people's historical context away from them. And everybody wants this to. Like, white people are always like, come on, it wasn't us. Like, they want black people to forget everything. Like, every year, white people add 100 years to how long ago slavery was. I've heard educated white people say slavery was 400 years ago. No, it very wasn't. It was 140 years ago. That's two 70-year-old ladies living and dying back to back. That's how recently you could buy a guy. That's it. And it's not like slavery ended and then everything has been amazing. Like, it just...
Oh, glad that's over.
Oh, yeah, it just ended like a clean where you don't have to wipe. Just boom. And then it's just been parades and presents ever since. You gotta remember that if you meet a black person, they have gray hair, they remember a time they weren't allowed to use a certain toilet. So give them a little, time to be...
Oh, you want to know how poor white Americans are treated underneath the post about white privilege. All right, let's get into it. Poor white folks are screwed by the system too, no doubt. Poor white Americans face poverty, unemployment, crappy health care, and a failing education system. It's tough, it's brutal, and it's wrong. But guess what? You're not also dealing with systemic racism on top of all of that. White privilege doesn't mean you're living in luxury. It means that you don't have the added weight of racial discrimination. You don't have to worry about being shot by the police at a disproportionate rate for looking too suspicious. You're not getting followed around stores just because of your skin color. You're not getting your job applications thrown out because they sound too ethnic. That's the privilege right there. It's the shit you don't have to think about every damn day. Imagine being poor and then on top of that, facing a world that is rigged to suspect, ignore, and punish you based just on the color of your skin. That is what people of color have to deal with. The system is screwing everyone, but it's got an extra special screw job for people of color. So, poor white Americans are treated like crap, absolutely. But they're not getting the double whammy of poverty plus racial discrimination. That's what white privilege is. It's not a get out of jail free card. It's the absence of a second set of chains. Open your eyes and see the whole picture. The system is broken for everyone, but for some, it's downright brutal.
How does the government seize more power for itself? Well, they have to shrink the families. They have to shrink the individuals. They have to shrink the concept of individualism. And they've done that quite successfully. If you ever look around and try to understand the chaos that we find ourselves submerged in today, if you ever want to make sense of it, just understand that the government is attacking family in the same way that they did it for Black Americans in the 1960s. It's very simple. For Black Americans, it was all about welfare. Hey, don't marry the father of your children. Don't do that. The government will give you more money if you don't marry the father of your children. This interruption. Trillions of dollars since have been given to welfare programs, and Black America is poorer today than we were before those incentives began in the 60s. Think about that. Trillions of dollars spent on welfare, and Black Americans are poorer today.
Okay, now Bacon's rebellion stands as one of the most important historical events for understanding how race was deliberately constructed. When you get to look at the works of Batalora, I think not Jane, but somebody Batalora, who talked about the creation of whiteness. And when you get to here is essays, or when you get to read the essay, you get to understand it describes how whiteness was created. It was a construct, right? Because people never saw race. People never knew that, oh, I'm white, you're black, right? Because whiteness came with privilege, and that's how it was created. Now, race was deliberately constructed to divide poor whites, to divide poor people. In 1676, poor white laborers and enslaved Africans in Virginia who lived in the same miserable conditions joined to fight against the wealthy colonial elite that controlled land, laws, and resources. This unity terrified the ruling class. Now, for a brief moment, the oppressed recognized that their suffering came from each other, but from an economic system designed to exploit and to discard them. Now, this rebellion shook the foundation of colonial American because it revealed a possibility that the elite feared most: black and white people recognizing their shared struggle. Right. Now, before racial categories solidified, poor whites and enslaved Africans often worked side by side in the fields. They shared similar housing and even intermarried. Understand that both groups were expandable labor for wealthy plantation owners. Poverty existed across color lines, and hardship was not racialized. The wealthy few were the only ones with the political rights, economic power, and land. Now, in this context, Bacon's rebellion was not simply a revolt. It was a moment when the lower classes realized they had been systematically deprived of opportunity and wealth by the same elite group. And you understand that this exposed a frightening truth for the ruling class. If solidarity continued, the entire plantation economy could collapse. So you understand how all these fear manifested itself. After the rebellion, the elite realized that they needed a stronger strategy to maintain control. They understood that if poor white colonists ever united with enslaved African again, the elite would be outnumbered and vulnerable. Thus, they created a new social invention, which we call whiteness, and used it as a political tool. Wealthy landowners passed laws that gave poor whites small privileges: the right to carry arms, they were given lighter punishments, access to certain jobs, and the psychological reward of believing that they were better than Africans. These benefits were not real power because they were illusions designed to stop unity. The elite effectively told poor whites, you may not have land, wealth, or political influence, but at least you are white. That's what they told them. But at least you are white. It means that they were not given the economic opportunity. All the elites did, they gave them inflated illusions. You are white, right? Now, This shift marked the birth of the lie that poverty belongs to black people. While whiteness equals success, poor whites were manipulated into accepting their own exploitation as long as they could feel superior to black population. Instead of demanding economic justice from the wealthy elite, they redirected their anger towards black people. This is one of the earliest examples of America's ruling class using race as a tool to prevent close solidarity, cross-class solidarity, ensuring that the poor would fight one another than challenge the powerful. The Bacons Rebellion aftermath created a racial hierarchy that protected the rich and divided the poor. Isn't it what's happening to the United States right now? You have the answer. Now, the ruling class successfully transformed a shared class struggle into a racial divide. Even though poor whites continue to suffer low wages, lack of education, exploitation, many believe that their whiteness made them part of the elite world. This psychological manipulation was genius because first, it turned the oppressed into guardians of the system that oppressed them. As long as poor whites identify with the wealthy simply because of shared skin color, they will never recognize the deeper truth. Their real enemy was not black people, but the elite owning class that extracted their labor and controlled their destiny. Now, the lie persisted for centuries because it influenced slavery, it influenced segregation, labor laws, and voting laws. Poor whites continued to support systems that kept them poor because they were taught that helping black people would threaten their racial status. Now, racism became a political tool to distract poor whites from their own suffering. Meanwhile, the elites concentrated wealth, resources, and power. The myth that poverty is a black problem was a way for the ruling class to hide the fact that poverty is a design, not a racial trait. As America industrialized, the same pattern continued. Millions of poor white families lived in coal towns, rural Appalachia, and factory communities under crushing poverty. Yet many clung to the belief that their whiteness protected them. Instead of organizing together with black laborers, they were told to protect white jobs. Even though the employers exploiting them were the same employers exploiting black workers, Bacon's rebellion set the blueprint: divide the poor, blame the powerless, protect the powerful. You can check this in modern era. Many white Americans are finally recognizing that they were deceived. Economic decline, that's lost jobs, opioid, homelessness, unaffordable healthcare. All of this has revealed that whiteness does not guarantee financial security. The elite continue to extract wealth from everyone. And the same racial divide created after the Bacons Rebellion still prevent unified resistance. Many white families now understand that narrative, poverty is a black problem, was a political lie, blinded them to their own exploitation. The suffering of poor whites is not new. It was always present, only hidden behind racial propaganda. Bacon's Rebellion teaches us a painful truth. Racism was designed, not discovered. It was engineered to control the poor, protect the wealthy, and prevent interracial class solidarity. The rebellion shows that black and white unity is the ruling class' greatest fear, because when people recognize their shared struggle, their collective power becomes unstoppable. The lie that poverty belongs to black people was one of the America's first and most powerful of manipulation. Its effects still shape society today, but its origin reveals that poor whites were never superior. They were simply used as tools to maintain a racial hierarchy that served the elite. Right? And so you understand that in all of this, the Bacon's Rebellion reveals the foundation of American inequality. A wealthy class that will do anything to maintain power, even if it means teaching poor whites to hate the very people they should have been fighting alongside. The tragedy is not only the manipulation, it is the century of missed solidarity. But the lesson here remains clear. When the oppressed see through the lie, the system loses its greatest weapon. And that's what's happening in the United States today. White people are waking up. White people are seeing the truth. And that's what they should have seen a long time ago. So brothers and sisters, please let me know what you think and feel about this video. I'm your host and presenter, AG Stories. But until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.